almost like the Flashpoint, where it starts, one of the key matrix lines that will help shatter this status centralized system.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Flashpoint Radio. I am your host, Jay-Z, and this is a Ron Paul campaign update. Thank you for joining me. I want to remind everyone to follow me on Twitter at Flashpoint Radio, Facebook.com/Flashpoint Radio. Click subscribe, then like this if you like this, and reshare this with your friends. This episode especially is very important for those that believe Ron Paul has no chance to pull out a victory in November. I have counted myself as one of those people who doubted it along the way. The news from today might say or speak otherwise. We are going to start, though, from Saturday in the great state of Missouri that I am in. And it was, well, a depressing weekend for Ron Paul supporters in Missouri. On the surface, from USA Today, Mitt Romney carries half of Missouri delegates at stake. Well, on Saturday, 24 of the 52 delegates awarded by Missouri for the Republican National Convention were awarded. Ron Paul only received 4. Mitt Romney received 12. Rick Santorum received 7, and Newt Gingrich received 1. Well, that's not the worst news you could say, because there is still, 18 delegates to be decided at the state convention, where Ron Paul's delegates will still move on, I hope. I'm not an expert at the delegate process, but if the other states in the country are any bellwether for what might happen, Rick Santorum supporters are flocking to Ron Paul supporters. So, in Missouri, don't be disheartened. Not all is over. Not all is lost. But if you read mainstream news, and the headline on Drudge Report at midday was Romney expected to sweep Tuesday primaries, or I believe the actual headline was "A Better America Begins Tonight," a speech that Mitt Romney will give in New Hampshire this evening. There are 5 states in there having their primary votes today for the Republican nomination, and Mitt Romney is expected to carry all of them handily. This article from U.S. News, I will scan it one more time. Yes, no, not one mention of even Ron Paul's name. Rick Santorum is mentioned. Newt Gingrich is not, so that is a bonus that they're not at least mentioning Newt Gingrich over Ron Paul. But, again, to the establishment, to everyone watching Fox News, the primary is over. Romney has won. Let's move on to Obama. Well, but if you look a little deeper into the news, and that's what we do here at Flashpoint Radio, and I encourage you all to do your own research and check out the links in the description below for the articles that I cover here on Flashpoint Radio, you would see something like this from Yahoo News. Ron Paul's Minnesota delegate blowout prompts Romney panic, says Paul advisor. Well, it turns out, over the weekend, while people in Missouri were getting depressed about their lack of a strong showing in the congressional district caucuses, it turns out Ron Paul carried 3 states in the majority: Minnesota, Iowa, which you wouldn't know, and Colorado. Over half of the delegates, or at least half of the delegates, were awarded over the weekend in the congressional districts, like in Missouri. The remainder to be decided at the state conventions, and Ron Paul carried at least half. He carried, I believe it was 14 of the 28 in Iowa, 20 of the 40 in Minnesota, and the Paul Santorum slate won 20, and the Romney slate won 16. It looks as if the strategy is leaning towards pulling Rick Santorum voters and supporters. Why not? Ron Paul is the only Christian left in the race. Newt Gingrich is an afterthought. We all know that. So, I think that's what hopefully we will be pushing for in Missouri. But another article that you might want to check out comes to us from the International Business Times. Ron Paul 2012 wins Iowa and Minnesota delegates, demonstrating possible path to White House. Along with this from the Examiner, Ron Paul wins Minnesota, Colorado delegates to Republican National Convention. So he's quietly wrapping up delegates and gaining supporters, pulling people from all areas of Republican support for a possible showdown in Florida later this year. But as we saw from U.S. News and USA Today and all of the other mainstream trickle-down media sources, the race is over. Romney might as well be focusing on Barack Obama. Well, we're going to go to someone in a place where I would not suggest you go for your unbiased news or for the truth, but she can bring a few nuggets of truth every once in a while, especially when it comes to calling out Republican shenanigans simply because she hates the Republican Party. We're going to go to MSNBC's Rachel Maddow. These are excerpts from her report last night. This is circulating the web at a high rate of speed, and I suggest you share this or her video with Ron Paul supporters or those supporters that will vote for Mitt Romney simply because they believe Ron Paul has no shot. Let's go to the video evidence.
The Republican nomination appears to be all but sewn up. Even with Mitt Romney having all but sewn it up, though, there do continue to be little off-script moments on the Republican side. Perhaps the most off-script thing that has just happened on the Republican side is that I think Ron Paul just won Iowa. And while we're on the subject, looks like Ron Paul just won Minnesota, too. The Ron Paul supporters in Texas were marching this weekend under the banner of Warren G. Harding. In 1920, Warren G. Harding went into the Republican National Convention with the fewest delegates of all the surviving candidates, and Warren G. Harding walked out with the nomination.
Well, while I would not say to go to her for much of your news or much of the truth that you would like to find, those were truer words. But I will point out the propaganda nuggets left in that report. The biggest one is that it is Rachel Maddow. So as we spread this video around, potential Ron Paul supporters, Republican Ron Paul supporters, will see Rachel Maddow, will see MSNBC, and they will say it's, this is the left wing trying to dissuade us, trying to get Barack Obama reelected. Tell them no, that's ridiculous. Even a blind dog can find his way to a snack every once in a while. A broken clock is right 2 times a day. And the other was at the end where she mentioned the Warren G. Harding scenario, which, as we all know, students of history, that is a strategy that can be used. But people will look at Warren G. Harding and say that was 1920. What are we going to do? The foxtrot all the way to the White House? Give me a break. That was before the United Nations. That was before the New Deal. They will pan that as some sort of crazy grasping for straws by the Ron Paul campaign. Don't believe it. We can still win. And we are going to finish on this article as well from U.S. News and World Report, who had the Ron Paul absent article about Mitt Romney's apparent victory. 5 reasons Mitt Romney is doomed against Barack Obama. 1, boots on the ground. 2, money in the bank. 3, an old school message. 4, primary problems. And 5, demographics are destiny. Well, I have one reason, and one reason only, Mitt Romney will not win come November, and that is Ron Paul. Might I remind all of you who were old enough to vote in 1992, the one reason George Herbert Walker Bush did not defeat Bill Clinton was also an R and a P. It just happened to be Ross Perot. So, we can actually get behind a candidate who can win and who might actually be able to begin to turn this ship around and away from tyranny. But we have to believe it. Spread this around to your friends. Let them know what's going on. Support Ron Paul. Do what you can. Don't get disheartened. I will try to stay positive as well. Jay-Z signing off for this special Ron Paul report. Flashpoint Radio is over. God bless. Keep your eyes to the sky. Too much. All the world will suffer. The wicked clutch.